So I want to do a little video here comparing AEW and Tony Khan's booking to Triple H's booking in WWE since taking over in the summer of 2022. Now, there are both pros and cons to both companies, and I'm going to discuss the good and the bad on this video. First of all, I want to say that I have no horse in this race. I really enjoyed what Triple H did in NXT for many, many years, and I did like the early AEW, but I felt like sometime this year, I felt like Tony Khan really kind of fell off. Now, people like Jim Cornette believe that the dude was used up all his good ideas and that he was kind of, an overrated booker. And I kind of see that. I kind of see where he's coming from, but that might not necessarily be the case because he's got the whole roster to work with. Triple H, on the other hand, again, he's got the whole roster to work with, but he's got in-ring experience and many more years of experience, but that does not mean you're going to be a great booker, especially not in 2022. But I want to first of all discuss talk about the two best things going on in each company right now. Right now in AEW, I think MJF is absolutely phenomenal and has been my favorite part of Dynamite each and every week, without question. I also do like the current trio's best of 7. That's good. But when it comes to like storylines and things like that, those are the two things that I guess are my favorite. The Jericho stuff's also been phenomenal, but when it comes to actual feuds, there's not really one that really, to me, is that, strong. Over in the WWE side, my two favorite things going on in that company are the Bloodline, which is, of course, just the best thing about wrestling right now. The Bloodline's my favorite act going in the business. Sami Zayn has done some of the best work of his entire career. He is a phenomenal performer on screen, in the ring, and out of it. The Usos have really just gotten better and better and better, y'all. And Roman Reigns is tribal chief, killing it with these great matches. And everyone's been working hard, man. The Usos, without question, have to be in line for being one of the greatest tag teams of all time. Like, they're right up there with the Hardys and the Hart Foundation. Like, you can't discount them. The rock and rolls that they've done so well. And then you got Bray Wyatt. I like the Bray Wyatt stuff. Some of it's a little bit weird to me, and I would tweak some things here and there. But the Bray Wyatt storyline is at least a long-term story that may end up going somewhere, or it may end up becoming a big toilet bowl of, trash. Hopefully it's not that. Hopefully it'll be allowed to flesh out more and we'll get some good stuff. So with that being said, what are the differences? What do I enjoy? So Triple H, one thing he's done since taking over is he's brought back a lot of his boys and girls. We've seen tons of people come back, like Johnny Gargano, one of my favorites. He's come back. Dexter Lumis has come back. We've seen Max Dupree get repackaged into being LA Knight, like how he was in Developmental. We've seen Karrion Kross, one of my favorite acts in the whole company, come back. We've seen a much more of a streamlined focus on the television of having longer matches, and in some cases, better matches. We've also seen Gunther, a.k.a. Walter, another one of my favorites, really getting pushed. So Triple H done a great job of getting some of his guys on TV, giving them the rub, and doing a pretty phenomenal job, I would say, of building sort of his pay-per-views and building up the future of the business. However, the negative is that we've also seen some Vince McMahonisms come back. For example, having big guys beat up on little guys. There was no excuse for, within 1 week, to have Omos beat up on Gargano and make him look stupid, and then have Braun Strowman beat up on Ricochet and then get a freaking banana peel slip victory. That was bad. And you can do that once in a while, yo, but seeing that twice in 1 week, it just screams Vince McMahon. Just totally screams Vince. I'm also not a fan of the way that sometimes Triple H has booked Drew McIntyre. Not really a big fan of that. But, the shows can sometimes be fun. They can sometimes be a bit boring. 3-hour Raw is still 3-hour Raw, but I think it's been much more enjoyable to watch lately. Although, sometimes I do wish the show was back to 2 hours. I mean, I've been wanting this since 2012, y'all. It's been 10 years. And the show was just much better, and it flows better. SmackDown definitely is a treat to watch most weeks. I really hated how Triple H... There was an angle. I want to discuss this. There was a really bad angle that aired on Raw with Austin Theory, where he cashed in the Money in the Bank on the U.S. title. And what people don't understand is that angle was really detrimental. It hurt Mustafa Ali, made him into a geek. It hurt Austin Theory. It hurt Bobby Lashley. It hurt Seth Rollins. It hurt the U.S. title. And it hurt the Money in the Bank. If you don't understand the fundamentals of wrestling, you wouldn't understand what I'm saying. But I'll just say this. The Money in the Bank has, since day one, since WrestleMania 21, has been the briefcase shortcut to being a top guy and a world champion. And if you cash in on the world champion and lose, at least you're trying for the world title. Cashing in on the U.S. title, like it made more sense when Theory was trying to go after Roman and failing, because at least there was always a circumstance behind it. Whereas with Seth, it was even worse. Now, what they did was they kind of killed Austin Theory, but Triple H has slowly began to kind of repackage him and rebuild him. So it's almost like he realized, okay, this was probably not good, so we have to learn from our mistakes. And ultimately, that is what makes a good booker. A good booker has to know what is working and make adjustments if necessary. A good booker has to look at the roster and say who works well with who, and not book Omos and Gargano, even though obviously I know what they were going for. It is irrelevant, still bad. A good booker has to make it so that the talent is used to the best of their abilities, and he's done that. Now, with AEW, and again, it's not perfect. WWE is not perfect, but I like it a lot more under Triple H than I did under Vince, without question. Now, going over to AEW, Tony Khan's kind of exposed himself as not being a great booker. He's made a lot of fundamental mistakes that rookie bookers would make. However, at the same time, he's also brought in some good people to help him. Jeff Jarrett, for example, this past episode of Dynamite was one of the best episodes of the year because Jeff Jarrett, I think, helped with the book. The show flowed well. You had a good mix of angles and wrestling, and you want your show to have like good wrestling matches, good angles, good promos. You want those three things. You want them to be even. Back in the day, in the older days of wrestling, even during the Attitude Era, which many of you grew up on, I watched wrestling before the Attitude Era, so I understand what the business was like prior to. TV was not the place to get the matches. TV was the place to get the angles and the storylines over so that you pay money to watch the pay-per-views or the house shows to see the matches. You would once in a while have long, good matches on TV, not so much on, like how it is now. With Dynamite, though, Tony Khan likes to have a couple of good matches on the shows every week, and that's good. Like, having those matches on television, having a good, solid main event that's well-worked, and maybe a good opener, he's done a good job of that. The show does feel a bit formulaic. One of the issues with AEW's booking is that the show does not feel spontaneous most weeks. When MJF is out there, when Moxley's out there, when certain guys are out there, they kind of bring that aura of unpredictability with them. But the show does feel very formulaic. You've got your opening match. You've always got a women's match in the second hour. They always do this. And your tag matches, thankfully the trios matches now. That to me makes the show feel kind of formulaic. And on most weeks, you can skip it. There was a tournament they did over the summer, or maybe it was last year. I don't really remember. But I remember the finalists were Jon Moxley and Kyle O'Reilly. It's like, I wonder who's going to win this match. Like, you can't book a tournament and then have the final match be a predictable match like that. Kyle O'Reilly had no momentum going for him at the time, so nobody believed he would ever beat Moxley. That match was good. The match was good because those guys can work, but the match, you knew who was going to win. And so it lost a bunch of viewers. And so I think TK has an issue keeping people tuned into the show. I think we need to have the show have a bit more unpredictability. He's a big fan of the old Nitro era, so you got to have that aura of suspense. And, the angle where they laid out William Regal was heavily criticized by a lot of journalists. Dave Meltzer criticized the hell out of it, and I understand why. But the one thing they got right in that segment was that they actually let the camera follow the ambulance out the building. That's something we need. We need to take our time some weeks and let these angles fester and build. Let the audience think about what we just saw. That's what needs to happen, yo. That is what needs to happen. I've seen some fans complain about the fact that AEW has too many championships. The Trios title I like because you've got enough trios in the company and enough guys that can work that style to make it work. And I thought it was something WWE does not have. So it's good to have a trios or a 6-man title. It goes back to the 80s, really, and world class with the Von Erichs. However, the All-Atlantic title is a waste of time. To me, it means nothing. It is a mid-card belt that you don't need because you've already got the TNT title. And then you've got the TBS title, which is pretty much a title that Jade Cargill has just so she can have a title. Because they want to put the world title on her because she's, kind of not ready for it. It's too many titles. Now things get even more complex because you've got the Ring of Honor championships also on there. You've got the ROH World title, the TV title, the Pure title, the tag titles, and you've got the women's ROH title. So because Ring of Honor does not have its own television program yet, and who knows if it ever will, we see the ROH titles on television, which makes it very convoluted. There's too many guys with titles. At some point, if Ring of Honor does not get some kind of streaming deal or something to where it can make money for Tony Khan, he needs to just legitimately fuse ROH into AEW and just end it and, use the ROH footage to do video packages and things like that, and maybe do an ROH show every couple of years as a tribute to the company. But there's really no point in having all these championships, There really isn't. And a lot of folks complained about it. I think WWE also might have a few too many championships as well, but at least they've tried to push them a little bit more this year. Then the biggest problem, I think, is the absolute staleness of the segments. Every single episode of Dynamite, without question, has to have a promo segment interrupted by another guy to book a match on Rampage or next week. It's always the same thing. Dude gets interviewed. Hey, you think you're so tough? How about you and me on Rampage this Friday night? And it's over and over and over and over and over and over and over. It's so annoying to see this. They've been doing it now for years. Please do something else. Book matches. Have some kind of television authority figure. It doesn't have to be a heel authority figure. It doesn't have to be like what WWE does. You could have like Tony Khan give memos to Excalibur, which is something that they kind of do on television, because TK is kind of a TV character, even though he really isn't. He's not a weekly character, but he is a character known on television. But you got to do something different, man. It's really played out. And something else that I think Khan said that really irritated me is when he publicly talked about how he wants to win the Wrestling Observer Booker of the Year award. That's extremely annoying. Even if you want to win the award privately, don't publicly say it. People have clowned him for this because ultimately your job is to bring as many eyeballs to your product as possible, sell as many tickets and pay-per-view buys. It's not to win some award from some newsletter on the internet. And this is not a diss towards Dave Meltzer. I've met Dave Meltzer. I've been a subscriber to Dave Meltzer in the past. It's not about that. It's about, dude, you are a multi-billion-dollar family, right? You need to make money on your enterprises. They've already got money, but they're losing money with AEW. AEW has been the deficit for 2 years now. They are not making money, and the only way to turn the ship around is to promote wrestling for the mainstream. You've already got the hardcore fan. The people who watch New Japan, the insiders, you've already got that. There's no need to keep bringing up WWE every week or talk about how you're wrestling and their sports entertainment. It's played out. It is played out. Instead, just give us good storylines and good wrestling matches. The talent's there. AEW has a great talent roster. It's just the booking leaves a lot to be desired. And they also hire way too many people, and you never see them on TV anymore. They just come on TV for a week and they vanish. There's also people who have come in hot and have cooled off. Wardlow, Athena, even like Jeff Hardy. That wasn't their fault. That was personal problems. But there's been guys they brought in who appear a couple weeks and then they literally just cool off. They don't matter anymore because there's way too much. There's way too many talents on the roster and not enough hours on television. And adding more hours is insane. Because people don't watch Rampage anymore. Nobody cares about it. So focus on Dynamite. Focus on your group of guys. Bring them in. Push them. Do it right. I thought that this past week's episode of Dynamite was very well booked. You had singles wrestlers and tag matches and 6-mans. The 6 women's match. That's how you do it. Get guys on the show without having to overstack your show. But ultimately, time will tell whether or not Tony Khan ever listens to the mistakes he's made or learns from them. I think he has learned from them to a degree, but we don't know yet. I think time will tell on that, and I hope he does, because the key is you have to learn from your mistakes and do better. That's not only a key in wrestling, that's a key in life. So leave a comment down below about what you like and dislike about WWE and AEW booking, and we'll talk real soon. Take care.